Good. I'm about to get Patrick Weeks on here, who is the founder and creator of the OCS blog. You guys just give me a second.
Hey, Capt. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How are you doing?
Good, good. Hey, welcome everybody. What's up, S Cruz? We got a fun night for you guys planned here with a bunch of guests. Happy to answer questions, and it's actually being hosted by Capt instead of myself, so I'm going to bounce out of here in a second. But yeah, welcome to OCS Blog. I founded the OCS Blog like 10 years ago because there was not one source of information that said, hey, you're a kid in college or high school today and you want to be a Marine officer and how to get there. So it started out as a little bit of a blog with a Wikipedia almost of information, but it's really become a community, and this is a perfect example of it. So, hey, what's up, Ash, Sarah, everybody who's joining. Yeah, and special thanks to our sponsor, Bulldog Products tonight. You're going to hear a crazy story from a candidate and in exchange for sharing their story, they're going to get a kit of cool CLP-themed hygiene gear from Bulldog Products. So thanks for that. But yeah, have a good night. Anything else?
No, I can't really think of anything else. I remember when I was a candidate reading the blog back in 2009, so it's really awesome to be a captain of Marines now hosting, an OCS Instagram video. So I'm excited for this, and I'm very excited to start answering some of the questions, concerns that, female candidates might have, or any candidate really. I mean, gender doesn't have to play a role in any of this, but I know there are some female-specific questions, so that's what I'm here for, ready to answer whatever you guys got. So I'm excited. I am going to join in our other guest host who was a candidate just recently dropped from OCS this past summer, and she's got a pretty crazy story, so I'm glad that you all will be able to hear it. All right, he's left. So y'all just give me a second, and I'm going to add in our other candidate. There we go, adding her.
Hi.
Hi, candidate Tran. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. All right. So again, my name is Captain Krieger. This is candidate Tran. She just went to OCS this past summer. She's a part of the PLC program, meaning Platoon Leaders course, and she is going to, at the end of this, talk a little bit about her story and how she got dropped, and now her plan to get back to officer candidate school. So a little bit about myself. I am an 0402 logistics officer, and I absolutely love my job. I think logistics is one of the coolest MOSs that you could possibly have in the Marine Corps, and that's just because, hey, we get to do literally everything in the world you could think of. We manage so many different functions, but this isn't an MOS talk, and I can talk to you guys about logistics all night long. So instead of doing that, I'll go into a little bit about myself. I went to officer candidate school for a total of 3 times. I went in 2009, 10, and 2012. Mine were due to injuries. So learning the attrition at officer candidate school was a big part of my life and figuring out how to be successful at officer candidate school. So I've kind of taken that as my project, dissecting the data that we get and analysis about officer candidate school, attrition rates that go into it, and figuring out why candidates are dropping. There's a lot to be said to why you get dropped. There are a lot of different reasons. It could be medical, it could be dropping on request, it could be a performance-related drop, it could be even before you induct, so shipping drops.
Academic.
Yeah, academic
PT.
is another reason. Yep, those are all performance-related drops. So in performance drops, you've got physical fitness, integrity, academic, leadership, failure to adapt, double categories, so like a combination of any of those. And today, we'll talk about your specific one. Can you tell them what your drop was for?
Right. So this summer I got dropped for an integrity violation 4 days before graduation. So my
Don't
drop
tell them
was
why. Don't tell them why. We'll save
okay.
that to the end, all right?
Okay, yeah.
So 4 days before graduation, candidate Tran got dropped before, finishing PLC juniors. And that is a huge blow to anybody's ego and
Yep.
motivation. Probably took an all-time low. But hey, you're back at it and you're pushing through it. So we'll save that to the end. So guys, stick around so you can hear her story. It is insane. I see a pizza emoji down there. That's a little hint as to what you guys could expect. So, all right, let's kick it. Y'all start putting in your questions. All right, go ahead and hit us with it. Type it into the comments, and then we'll start answering them. If it's kind of slow, I'll just go into talking about being a female at Officer Candidate School, and then we'll just keep talking for a little bit. Hopefully, you guys can come up with some good questions. I know someone's got them out there. Don't be afraid and embarrassed to ask any weird questions too. And they don't have to be female related. They could be attrition related at OCS. It could be Marine Corps related. You could ask me my fleet experience if you want to. Percentage of people that drop from injuries. So medical drops usually hovers around 12%, 12 to 15% of people drop at medical reasons. Females versus males, both have high percentages of drops for lower extremity injuries. That's going to be your biggest fail. It can be everything from bone breaks to muscle issues. Those are the things that you're going to want to start looking out to. If you haven't seen it before on YouTube, you're going to be able to look back at the OCS blog and see I did sports related live video around Thanksgiving time frame where I had some personal trainers that were family of mine, and they went through how to do some self-care at OCS. So check that out. Going back to some of these other questions.
The difference between male and female candidates at OCS.
With the injuries. So yeah. I think for females, you're just going to, in general, see a lot more injuries, and that's because our muscles and our bone structures are just different, and we also have less testosterone, and so therefore we will never be as strong as males. And that's not saying that you can't train to it and you can't make yourself better, but it's just a biological difference that we have that you have to be consciously aware of. And if you're conscious about it and you are willing to put in the effort and train yourself to being stronger, you're not going to have any problems.
Right. I also think that females tend to be a little bit more emotionally adapt. So like you're more aware of like your emotions, and because like you're less aggressive, you can, for me, I thought that like my patience ability was pretty high, but I don't know how it differs from like male candidates. I just felt that for my personal experience, I had a pretty high tolerance for adapting to situations mentally. And I didn't know if male candidates could differ in that way. But I think that generally speaking, the experience is the same. You're in the same company, you're with males and females, and you're doing the same exact work. So instead of focusing on the differences, just try to focus on what you need to be doing at the time and trying to complete it to the best of your ability.
And I 100% agree with that. And that's one of the things that I'm going to start with, and I'll end with, and I'll continue to preach it until the day I die. If you want to be considered an equal, you have to stop asking for special treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to stop saying, I can't do something because I'm a female, or I want to do something because I am a female. Just stop. There's no difference. You are a Marine. We all wear green. It says United States Marine across my chest. It doesn't say female Marine. It doesn't say male Marine. It just says United States Marine. So get over it. Stop asking for special treatment. You're no different. We carry the same weight. We hike the same miles. And that's it. The end. So, I mean, that's what I have to say about that. But I'll get off my soapbox for a little bit. One of the other questions that came in was biggest concern e-course and what do you think about PT at OCS? Being concerned about the e-course at OCS is 100% valid. So the e-course actually has a higher weight than any of the other physical fitness events. The e-course is anywhere from a 3 to 4 mile, depending on the route that they choose, obstacle course. You're wearing a little bit of weight, you're running in boots, you're carrying your rifle. It's a timed event, pass fail. If you fail part of the or the O course that you do prior to, so you do the O course, climb up the rope, come down, put on the rest of your gear, and then you head out to the trails and you run it by yourself, essentially individual effort. If you fail any part of the O course, they add 5 minutes to your overall time, so that alone could be the difference between pass and fail for you. So if you want to train for that, I highly recommend doing one of the Spartan sprints, bullfrog, obstacle races, doing a Tough Mudder. Actually, I highly recommend doing the full Tough Mudder. It's about 12 to 13 miles depending on your route, full of obstacles, mud, and just run it in tennis shoes. You don't have to run it in boots. You don't have to run it in pants, but do an obstacle race prior to attending officer candidate school so you can get the feel of what that's like. Obviously, do it to the best of your ability and stretch and don't get injured before shipping to OCS, but that's what I have to say about the e-course. Do you have anything you want to add about the e-course?
I didn't do the e-course personally. I did the stamina course. So if you are concerned about the e-course and you're concerned about like your time availability to prepare for it, and you're still a freshman or sophomore in college, I'd highly recommend doing PLC juniors and PLC seniors, because at PLC juniors, you don't do the full e-course, but you do a stamina course, which is a very toned down version of the e-course. And I actually failed it the first time, and the second time I did it, I passed it. But that being like that I failed the first time, doing a very toned down version of it just goes to show how you need to prepare obstacle wise before you attempt to do the e-course.
What part of it did you fail? Was it your upper body strength or was it the overall time?
Overall time was one of it. I think that was conducted on a Monday right after my first Liberty week, or my second Liberty weekend, and I didn't hydrate enough prior to that, so that also slowed me down as well. Also, some of the obstacles, not necessarily considering upper body strength, but just overall, when you get a little bit more depleted, you tend to just sort of fail, or like your body like lets go. So I just failed. I forget the name, but it's the one where you go upside down and you're crawling on that rope. Yeah, I failed that one. So make sure that you practice the rope climbs prior to going to OCS, regardless of PLC or OCC. That's a big one, because if you nail that, you won't have to worry about trying to perfect that at OCS yourself.
That's very good advice. Yep. Make sure if you don't have a rope at your school or at your ROTC, go to a CrossFit gym. They usually have ropes. Pay the drop-in fee. Spend a lot of time learning how to climb the rope. Make sure you watch. So if you go onto OCS's official website, the Training Command one, they have obstacle course videos on there that are very specific. They have rope climbing techniques that are authorized at officer candidate school. And then they also have workouts associated to building your upper body strength. So I highly, highly recommend you to go to the OCS blog, the OCS Training Command website, go to physical fitness preparation, and watch the videos on there. Make sure you're doing the authorized technique, because there's nothing worse than showing up to officer candidate school and you learn the wrong rope climbing technique. That for sure is going to set you up for failure. Another question that we got was, I'm getting ready for the selection boards this June for OCC. What best advice can you give me? So if you're getting ready for a selection board, trying to make yourself competitive on the selection board, I highly recommend improving your PFT scores and showing consistency with your OSO. You need to try and do monthly PFTs if they offer them, or even if you're running them yourself, report your scores to your OSO and just say, hey, sir or ma'am, this is what I did. This is what I did last week. Just continue to give them updates of your PFT scores, because the PFT is very heavily weighted, and it's usually a tiebreaker that we use when we're looking at candidates for the selection board. Another thing that you can do that I tell all of my candidates, start volunteering in the local area. Volunteering, having tons of hours, logged with, a lot of different things shows us that you care about the community. And if you care about the community as a civilian, then of course you're going to care about protecting and serving the nation and upholding the Constitution. So, I mean, it might seem like a pretty big jump from, volunteering at a soup kitchen to defending the Constitution, but in all reality, it does kind of, it's similar. So that's going to help you be more competitive. Another thing you can do is ask for leadership billets within your within the pool of the OSO office. If you have a Semper Fi society, try and get a billet on campus. If you've already graduated from school, try and get a leadership billet with a volunteer organization or some kind of leadership billet where we can speak to consistency and you trying to improve the community as well as be a local leader. That's something that I would say would really, really help out. Let's see. Do you have anything you want to add about that you might think is making you?
I think you hit it all. I think you hit the leadership abilities. If you're still in school, make sure you keep your grades up, and make sure you PT regularly. And that's all that you can really do.
Yep.
The next question. Asking about what the processing week is like and how long it lasts until you actually get picked up and start training. From my experience this past summer, when I got there immediately, I got there pretty late because I was on the West Coast and it was in Quantico. So the first week, it's just kind of sort of like a blur. You're just getting your medical things ready. It's basically like MEPS, but just prolonged, and you'll be guided through the whole process. You're not going to be screamed at by any sergeant instructors or anything like that. So you don't necessarily need to mentally prepare for that, but you need to be aware of like Black Friday and that happening. The biggest recommendation that I would say for processing week is memorize your candidate regs. Read over them. Make sure that you know exactly what you need to do or exactly what's in that book, because it's going to be a huge asset to you later down the road. You're not going to have time to look at your candidate regs regularly after you meet your sergeant instructors, actually after you meet your staff. So make sure that you look at the knowledge that's in the back of the candidate regs, make sure that you try to memorize it. And that's what I did when I was sitting there and standing by, and that had helped me when I became a knowledge candidate and I was giving ditties out to the rest of the platoon, ultimately the rest of the company. So I highly, highly recommend memorizing your candidate regs, also squaring away your gear during processing week as well. Not necessarily through the way that the candidate regs might be displaying, because you don't necessarily know what your staff wants, but making sure that it's all organized in every way that you know, so that way you have easy access to it before you meet your staff.
Yep, that's great advice. Another piece of advice that I want to make sure I put out there is the commanding officer of Officer Candidate School is going to talk to you guys in a group setting. They're going to put you in the auditorium, and he's going to explain his philosophy and leadership philosophy and what the mission of Officer Candidate School is, and kind of break it down by the numbers for you. He's also going to go over the 5 tenets of what he thinks makes a good officer candidate and what's going to help you graduate. So those classes might seem a little over your head, or you might be so nervous about pickup you're not really thinking about paying attention to what the commanding officer is saying. But he's actually telling you everything you need to know to graduate. He's going over. So listen to the commanding officer when he talks to you guys that initial session during pickup or the in processing, as well as listen to the corpsman, disclose everything that you need to talk about to the corpsman, and make sure that during processing you get the right size boots and camis. So in processing, you're going to be getting your small bag, big bag, whatever they call it these days, issue, where you have to, give it roughly about $500 and you get your entire gear issue. During that time, it's going to be really rushed, and they're going to be giving you, your different boots and stuff, your uniforms. If you do not have the right size boots, stop and say something. It is not that critical that you fall in line and shut up and hurry out the door. If your boots don't fit from day one, you're setting yourself up for failure. So it seems silly that I'm talking about it, but I've seen it happen where a girl She had a size too small and tried to get through OCS, and she ended up getting blisters so bad that she got dropped because of her blisters, but it was because she had the wrong size boots and she didn't stop and say anything. It's pretty dumb. So have some courage and, stand up and say, hey, I need some extra time to get the right size boots.
Great. 5-paragraph order, what's the best way to do this?
So 5-paragraph op order, you're absolutely right to be concerned about this piece, because it's one thing to memorize, the skeleton, which you absolutely should be able to do. You should have it memorized. They're going to give you a blank sheet of paper with a bunch of lines on it, and you need to be able to fill it out, and that's going to be one of your exams that you do. So test yourself on that. Try and, fill out a full skeleton by yourself without looking at a piece of paper. And if you can do that to memorize it, you're going to be okay. Now, understanding the 5-paragraph op order, that comes through experience and practice. Get with your OSO, get with the prior once trained candidates, fully trained candidates, or PTAD second lieutenants, and ask to do drills. So what I do in my pool is I will give them an operation order, and then they do their best to write it shorthand, and then they try and repeat it back to me. And that's just how we practice back and forth. If you don't have that option in your pool, or maybe you're too far from your OST to do a lot of pool programs, meets, you can YouTube TBS 5-paragraph op order. TBS is the basic school, which you go to right after officer candidate school or after you graduate from college. And those are second lieutenants that are going through that period of instruction. The second lieutenants will sometimes post their operation order online. And so you can listen to them as they're reading off and giving their brief. And then you can just sit there at home and try and transcribe it and practice it yourself. So that's something that I highly recommend all candidates do. Look at the basic school, because that's, essentially where you're going to next. You should always be looking one step ahead, one school ahead. Where are you going next? So look at the basic school, YouTube, look at the second lieutenants that are giving their 5-paragraph op order, and, practice that way.
Yeah.
And also practice making your waterproof skeleton. I know my candidates do a lined sheet of paper, and then they put packing tape over it, and then they use their matte pens to write on it, so that way it's waterproof. So that's something that you might want to consider doing.
Another tip, there's two little concerns that you need to keep in mind when you're doing the 5-paragraph order. The first one is just making sure that you're memorizing the 5-paragraph order and also transcribing it when you're listening to the orders that are given to you. And the second thing that you need to memorize is, if you are giving a 5-paragraph order, you need to be aware of the execution and the professionalism and the confidence that's going behind that. So one thing that our OSO did was maybe not what you did at your OSO, but by transcribing it and listening to it. But what we did was, there was always one candidate in charge of PT before every PT session that we had. And usually when they gave instructions to conduct PT, they gave it in a 5-paragraph order. And so then that helps you not only prepare for it, but also know how to execute it, how to communicate in front of people, and how to be aware of what's going on in front of you while you are conducting PT and while you are getting your 5-paragraph order out.
Yeah, that's good advice. All right, so some of the other questions that I was looking at, hikes. That's always been a concern for any candidate, male or female, and I think the best way to do hikes is to get out there and practice the pace. The pace, not everybody has hills, and hill training can be kind of simplified by doing stadiums or incline work on a treadmill, and doing hill sprints if you just have one hill in your local area. But you need to learn how to stride it out. And what I mean by that is opening up your legs and doing long steps instead of little shuffle steps. A lot of candidates think that this works for them because they're able to keep the pace, but you're wasting energy just doing shuffle steps. You need to learn how to really open up your hips and push yourself a lot farther when it comes to your stride. And if you're struggling opening up your hips and taking longer steps, you might want to consider doing some different hip opening stretches, yoga poses, YouTube that. There are tons online that you can look up and do those a couple of times before going out on a hike, or the night before a hike at OCS. You can lay in your rack and do hip opening stretches. and those will work wonders. So putting yourself on a pace, 3.5 to 4.0 on a treadmill, or getting a GPS watch that can track that for you, and maintaining that pace will actually be very, very significant for you. And if you have never hiked before, I highly recommend you go on the Training Command website for Officer Candidate School. They have a 90-day and 180-day physical preparation course, and it starts you out at the basics. Very, very lightweight, low miles, but it will help you establish a good foundation for training at Officer Candidate School. And then just getting a group of other candidates together too and going on a hike. Start out with 3 miles, maybe 10 pounds, 15 pounds, work yourself up to 9 miles with maybe 25, 30 pounds, and just maintain the pace. If you can maintain the pace and put a couple hills in there, then you'll do okay at Officer Candidate School. And then while you're at Officer Candidate School, kind of like what Candidate Tran was already saying, is they usually come after Liberty weekends. And Liberty weekends are a test of yourself as a leader. You need a lot of initiative to get through Liberty weekends. It's so easy to sit there and eat terrible food, have, soda, Coca-Cola, whatever, and eat a bunch of honey buns and eat pizza and just really bad stuff for you. Or you can be smart, continue to eat the same diet, drink lots of water, hydrate, maybe get some coconut water if you want to feel fancy, and hydrate, and eat nutritious food at Officer Candidate School, because hard PT events usually come on Mondays or Tuesdays right after Liberty.
Yeah. And you just hit on what I recommended too. Before Officer Candidate School, before Officer Candidate School, I was really nervous for the hikes. So what I did was I actually conducted a hike that was harder than the requirements for PLC juniors. So it was actually like a 7.5 mile hike, and I was carrying 55 pounds. Now, granted, I was doing this smartly using a pack that was good for my posture, so that way it wouldn't hurt me. But I conducted this before at my own pace, just to kind of have the confidence in me knowing that I can accomplish it. If you haven't hiked that much in your entire life before and you're intimidated by that, then I highly recommend doing something similar with the same length, so then that way you have that mental preparation, so when that time comes, you're not worrying or stressing out about it unnecessarily.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that goes back to doing those tough mudders. Tough mudders are 12 to 13 miles long. If you can get through one of those at a decent pace, the hikes won't be too terribly bad. And what I recommend, the only other thing I'll say on hikes is my preparation for it was, it's Florida. There's no hills here. So I got on the the Stairmaster in the gym, put on a 15 to 25 pound weighted vest, and I put it on level 5 to 6 and went for 60 minutes. And I did that 3 times a week. If you can do that for a couple weeks at a time, leading up to Officer Candidate School, obviously slow, gradual build up. Don't start off doing that right away, but you'll be okay.
Is that the last question, or?
We got some more. So what's a competitive PFT score for females? Actually, to be honest with you, there's not a huge difference when it comes to the selection board for PFT scores when it comes to males or females. So on average, really, really competitive scores, you're looking at about a 270. Male or female, doesn't really matter. So if you can get to a 270 range, then you're looking pretty solid. But that doesn't mean that if you aren't at a 270 PFT that you shouldn't talk to an OSO or you shouldn't apply for the program. Just do the best that you can and make yourself competitive in other areas. So again, like those leadership skills, your academic scores, and just overall, participation in the program is going to make you look successful. But the competitive run times, and I'm talking competitive meaning that you're going to hang with the pack on average. This is what you're going to be able to do. So hanging with the pack run times at OCS for males, you're looking at about 20 minutes. Like if you can run a 3 mile in about 20 minutes, you're probably going to feel pretty okay at Officer Candidate School. And then for females, you really need to be running at about 22:30. If you can run 3 miles in about 22:30, again, you're going to feel kind of comfortable. Most of the runs will be relatively easy for you, and you should be a lot more successful. If you're above those times, hey, you can still push through. It's all mental. It really is. So just
Yeah.
keep pushing. And you were just there recently this summer. Would you
Right.
say that those times are about accurate?
Yes, I would say that those times are extremely accurate. And also, I was the second to smallest candidate in my entire company, and the candidate that was smaller than me was only like 3 pounds lighter than me. So I was really small. I'm at 5'3".
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's your
Yeah,
height?
so I'm 5'3", and at OCS I was actually 105, hanging around 5 pounds, like 105 pounds. And I had only just started my interview with my OSO that previous January. So my first PFT ever was a 29-minute 3-mile run. I was doing like 50 crunches, and I did one pull up. And that was like about a 175 PFT, not even at the minimum qualifying score of a 235. And within a span of 7 months, my last PFT score was a 22:30-minute, 22:30-minute 3-mile run, 116 crunches, and 5 pull-ups. And normally I do 7. So it's all about consistency. It's all about practice and applying yourself, because you don't understand how capable your body is of adapting to stress and physically adapting to that high sense of athleticism that's required of you at OCS. So I highly, highly recommend just being consistent, working out at least 3 to 4 times a week, doing cardio for at least 3 of those days, like minimally. But you'll also be surprised at how much your body can adapt. So make sure that you prepare for that to the best of your ability, because you will see major improvements at OCS yourself.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so some more questions. The gear list at OCS. So the gear list that they post online and that your OSO gives you, absolutely you need it. They would not tell you to bring it if you did not need it. And then there's other tons of like nice to have items that, okay, if they're just nice to have, you've heard from a candidate or a friend of a friend that said, hey, bring this. No, you're not required to bring those. If it's on the gear list, though, you need to bring the gear list. That's it. And end of story.
Yeah, I made the mistake of bringing too much gear to OCS. I could have saved a lot of money by not buying like night reflective tape or just neon flashcards. They were not applicable. These are things that if you already have in your possession, great, bring them along. But if you don't need to go out of your way to purchase these items. So just make sure that you have what's like on the gear list as well. And that's really all you need to go to OCS.
Yep. OCS has been going on for so long right now. Like that gear list is pretty perfected. You'll end up coming back with like way more stuff than you need. Like you're gonna go out on Libo and you're gonna probably buy some extra stuff. And then by the time you graduate, you're gonna be like, how do I have so much shit? Like I've got 3 bags of stuff. I remember coming home and I was just looking at everything that I had bought and I was like, what a waste.
Right.
So you really just buy the gear list, stick to it. It's very, very basic. Definitely bring it though.
Oh yeah, there's a comment down here. You do need a headlamp though. Make sure that you do get that.
Oh yeah,
that's
absolutely.
yeah.
A red lens headlamp. Red lens headlamp.
Yeah.
And bring extra batteries too. If that's not on the gear list, that is something you absolutely have to have.
Medical tape is also a good one. Yeah.
Yep. So the brand that I recommend is the Kendall 1-inch medical tape. You can buy it on Amazon, and it's the kind that doesn't bleed. It's very, very sticky. So Kendall white 1-inch medical tape, buy it on Amazon. We can post a link later to this blog, and y'all can make sure you get the right kinds prior to shipping. And then another recommendation is like the type of permanent markers. So if you buy the Rub-A-Dub ones that are specifically made for marking clothing, it says Rub-A-Dub on it, but it's not going to bleed. They're actually very good permanent markers. So, do you have any other? specific brands, anything?
Oh no, I was pretty bad when it came to like knowing the brands and knowing what exactly like which gear to bring. But if for females though, it's the Got to Be hair gel, the yellow one.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
that's really good for keeping your hair glued down to your scalp.
And we're talking, so female specific question.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to want to buy Got to Be glue, the yellow bottle, and use that while you're at officer candidate school. All the other stuff is garbage. It's terrible. But at the same time, when you get to the fleet, you do not need to use that same gel. That gel will destroy your hair, and you will probably have to walk away like cutting it really short because it's going to be so brittle and broken by the end of it.
Right.
And speaking of hair, at the end of these, once we get through a lot of questions, I'm going to show you guys how to do a twist bun because I know a lot of candidates and female candidates specifically have been asking me, how do I do a twist bun? So I'm going to show you guys how to do that today. So yeah, Got to Be glue, hair gel, very important.
Yep. And I think was that it?
Waiver success stories
Waiver
for
success.
applicants. I work with waivers all the time, and really with waivers, there are some waivers things that we can't waive. Like if you're over the age of 34, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do for you. That's it. I've seen a lot of different waivers get approved. I've seen waivers get approved for candidates that were not recommended to reapply to officer candidate school. I've seen people who have had multiple DUIs, lots of different drug uses, academic scores not necessarily to par. That, there's a lot of things that can be waived. Talk to your OSO though. That's the biggest thing that I can say about that. There's a lot of success stories out there, and all you have to do is just really try.
Yeah, but that's the key element though, is trying and making sure that you are a competitive candidate regardless of that waiver or not. So don't use that as an excuse to feel like you have some sort of safety net because you really don't.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Going into specifics about graduating with honors from officer candidate school or how to accomplish this. First off, I really don't think that you should be focused on graduating with honors from officer candidate school. You need to focus on retaining the material and being a good person. If that ends up meaning that you're the honor graduate, awesome. But you should never go into a professional military education school with the goal of being, the #1 candidate or the #1 lieutenant or anything like that. You need to go into it with the right mindset of, I'm doing this to better myself and to be a leader of Marines, because it's not for you. It's never about you. As an officer of Marines, your life is about the Marines that you're about to lead. So don't worry about
unselfishness.
being honor grad. Yeah, don't worry about being honor grad. If it comes to the fact that you get honor grad, awesome, and that just means that you are a good person, because those are the people that deserve to be the honor graduate. Good people, and the ones that actually care. So, but honor graduate takes in, just to answer the question, honor graduate takes into academic scores, physical fitness, and leadership scores. So usually it goes to the person with the overall highest GPA of the company. So, those are just things that you're going to have to look out to how to accomplish that. You want to study for the academic knowledge, start memorizing stuff now, get your good 5-paragraph op order, and make sure you're getting 300 PFTs, and just exceptional physical fitness. So that's what I would recommend.
Right. But then like if you focus too much on being honor grad, then you're focusing too much on your ability as a candidate. And usually those candidates that only focus on themselves at OCS end up having a bad rep in the platoon, and you don't know how other people in your platoon are going to perceive you, because you're those grades that come in, how they rank you and how their other candidates perceive you is incredibly important for your success at OCS as well. And sometimes you can't control the opinions that other people are going to have of you regardless. So you can't just focus on like honor grad. You have to focus on being the best candidate that you can be, and also helping out other candidates as well, and making sure that you're taking that extra step to make sure that other candidates in your platoon and your company are also held accountable and held to the highest standard.
Yep, good advice. Another question that came on is blisters being unavoidable at officer candidate school. No, they are avoidable. I knew plenty of candidates, males and females, that never once got a blister at officer candidate school.
Yeah.
Whereas people like myself, where I struggled every day with blisters. So I'm actually working with the OCS blog. We're gonna do a blister specific video, and I'm gonna show you guys how to tape your feet and make blister packs. And so there will be a separate like one-stop shop video for blister care at officer candidate school. There's very specific stuff that you can buy to make that easy for you, and you will, once I figured that out, my third time around through officer candidate school, never once did I struggle with a blister or did a blister hold me back from OCS. So we'll just stay tuned for that one. We will get to the blister idea for sure.
And then peer evals. I heard they can send you home. How important are they?
So peer evals are taken into consideration by the OCS staff and the platoon commander. But for the most part, there's such a minimal point of your GPA, of your command evaluations, that you shouldn't really focus on peer evals. Just be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
Just be a good person, and it's all going to work out. Don't stress too much about peer evals. I really wouldn't worry about it too much.
Right. That's hard to find. Study. Do you think I will be behind if you haven't studied for OCS? So for the academic portion of OCS, it definitely takes into consideration that people are coming in with all different types of backgrounds and without knowledge prior to going to OCS. There's some OSOs, like mine from San Diego, that prepares candidates really well prior to going to OCS. And then there's also some OSOs that are so far from where the candidate actually lives. So some candidates are actually being selected like a month before they actually go to OCS. I know this personally through a candidate that was in my platoon. And the best way to prepare is like looking at what you can on the OCS blog page and doing your own research, but also at the same time take into consideration that there are multifaceted backgrounds of people coming to OCS. So they do take that into consideration, and you can still be academically competitive so long as you apply yourself at OCS and make sure that you make that effort to retain the information that you're learning.
And the academic knowledge at officer candidate school is usually right around a 12th grade to freshman, sophomore level education level. What makes it difficult is the lack of sleep that you're going to be getting and being sore, tired, hungry, whatever it might be. A lot of different physical stresses that you're going to be going through. Whereas at, in 12th grade or your freshman, sophomore year of college, you weren't really experiencing that. So that's what makes it a little bit difficult. So if you have good study habits, like she was saying, you're going to be fine.
Yeah. Do prior enlisted get forced into leadership roles more often than others, or are given billets more often to build experience? Sorry, I butchered that.
I would say forced into leadership positions more often is really a negative term. You're given the opportunity to lead your peers before they really understand what it means to be a leader. And they do this because they already know that you have led Marines because you are at least an NCO or a non-commissioned officer as an enlisted person. So you do have Marine Corps experience when it comes to leadership, and you're given the opportunity to show them what right looks like. And then it also knocks your leadership billet out of the way. And they are smart. They've been doing this for a long time. So they know that you are leading a bunch of untrained officer candidates who are civilians, have never once been in the Marine Corps, and they don't necessarily know what orders mean or how to follow them instantly. So that's not going to really affect your leadership evaluation when it comes to it. And then they also need the enlisted candidates, like prior enlisted candidates, to show the non-Marine Corps candidates how to do drill, how to hold company formations, get them online. Again, just show them what right looks like. So yes, you do get the opportunity to do it before anybody else does because you already technically know what right looks like. But you're not going to get more often than anybody else. It's going to be the same amount. And this is just because everybody needs to be evaluated.
Yeah.
Fire
I
watch.
heard that yeah, this one's a good one. I heard that fire watch really hurts the female platoon towards the end of OCS due to drops. How bad actually is it? It can get pretty bad.
It can get bad, and it does make it more difficult, especially if like this can happen to any platoon though. Any platoon can go on extra fire watches. So we had one male platoon where they had some security issues within their squad bay, so they ended up having a full fire team on squad bay watch instead of just 2 candidates. It was a total of 4 candidates that had to rotate through. So it's not just the females that get through the rigors, but yes, towards the end when females start dropping due to physical injuries, it's going to be more difficult. From my experience, we've been all the way down to in the low 20s, and so 2 people on for that total 8 hours, yeah, it definitely makes it a little bit more difficult. And when I've seen platoons get down into the teens, they had the brother platoons come over and do their fire watch and hold some shifts for them. So it's a company, and this is where you really learn how to be a full family, and Marines are going to take care of each other. So if it gets down to that kind of situation for you, regardless of if you're in a male or female platoon, your brother or sister platoon is going to help you out. And that's just how it works. You have to learn how to be a Marine Corps family, and they will establish that firmly at Officer Candidate School.
Right. And another thing to be wary about, I don't necessarily know if this is true or not, but our platoon received the lowest academic marks and near the end, and we actually had the lowest academic marks in comparison to the rest of the company. And I'm not going to say that that's excusable because of sleep, but sleep deprivation definitely played into that because then we were more tired in class and we were unable to pay attention. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself physically, making sure that you're not you're utilizing that time, that personal time to the best of your ability to study, and making sure that in class you're making that extra effort to try to keep yourself awake and try to take good, diligent notes, so then that way it doesn't hurt your ability, at least academically or physically as well.
Yep. Well, I think we hit all of our questions.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any other questions? We'll do a last call for questions, and then I'll go into hair, and then we'll go into some other stuff. What will get you dropped from OCS? All right. So I'm going to go through a list that I have written down. These are the reasons why you can get dropped from Officer Candidate School. So you can, before you even induct, you could be a non-training disenrollment. And this is stuff that's going to happen in the 3 days leading up to pickup. So this is, if you're not financially stable, or if you can't get your family issues. So if you go into it and you're already telling them, hey, my wife's about to have a child, like I'm done, I have to go be with my wife, you could get dropped for that, disenrolled from that. You can get pre-existing medical injuries. So if you go to Officer Candidate School and you did not disclose something to your OSO, and then you disclose it at Officer Candidate School, they can disenroll you for that as well. Or if something developed between then and now when you're reporting to medical that, can cause you to get disenrolled initially before doing the initial PFT. You can also be an induct failure, which means that your PFT wasn't good enough to attend Officer Candidate School. While you're at Officer Candidate School, you've got performance drops. So again, that's your physical fitness, leadership, academics, multiple category failures, integrity, inability to evaluate, which means that you spent too many days on light duty, and then also inability to adapt or refusing to train. if you do one of those, then you're going to get disenrolled and dropped. You can also drop on request after week 4. And what that means is you go up to your platoon staff and you tell them, I no longer want to do this. I don't want to be a Marine Corps officer. I want to drop on request, and then you'll be gone. If you do that, though, you would go away with a option to not they don't want you to reapply. They're not going to authorize that. And then, of course, there's the medical reasons why you could be dropped at officer candidate school. So that's just a pretty general list. I don't really know if that answers your question, but I'm pretty sure you can infer what some of those things are. So, like, if your academic GPA drops below 80%, they can disenroll you for that. If your leadership grade drops below 80%, they're going to disenroll you for that. If both of them drop below 80%, then you're going to get double category failure, and they're going to disenroll you for that. So just something to be aware of.
Yep.
It looks like, yeah, I'm pretty sure the video dropped because we lost a lot of viewers in that time. So,
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
The video is going to be posted online a little bit later, so you guys will be able to look back on YouTube and see all those lists of why you can be disenrolled from officer candidate school. So yeah, video's freezing up.
Okay. Mine's
I'm
good
good
too.
on my end this ends.
Yeah. Could just be the app
Yeah.
or other people's. Okay. Are we good for questions then, or?
I think we're good. So let me, I'm gonna hand the phone over to my mom, and she's my videotaper for a second. Wait. Here, all right. There's my mom. All right, so follow me, Mom. It's this way, this camera now. All right. Okay, so one of the most important things that you have to buy as a female is you need a thin tooth comb. So my hair is already parted in the one way that I like to part my hair. And then the next important thing that you're going to do is you're going to brush out all the flyaways on your tooth parts. So I've got my hair divided into 2. I'm brushing it out so it's nice and straight. I'm going to do the same thing with my other ends. Okay, so then what I would do, and I'm not going to do right now because I don't have gel, but I would put a lot of gel in my hands. The Got to Be glue, the yellow bottle. So pretend like it's in my hands. It's in there. So I'm taking this side, I'm pulling it up, and this one, and now I'm twisting it around. That's the first part. Now I'm taking the same method, twisting it in the same direction, twist it in the same direction. That's simple.
Nicely done.
Thanks, Mom. You're welcome. Okay, that was it.
Are people still having issues with the video?
Yeah, I think so. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna end the video really quick, and then I'm gonna add you back. Okay?
Okay, sounds good. All right.
Hey guys, glad you guys are back. Everyone's back. This is looking great. Sorry about that. All right, I'm about to add candidate Tran back. Hey everyone, we're back. I can't hear you. Can you guys hear me? Someone give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. You can hear me. I can't hear you. Someone type for us. Oh, I got one thumbs up. Hey, all right. We're looking good. Try unplugging your headphones. We're just gonna stare awkwardly at each other. It's very good. Awkward. I'm just gonna stare at you guys. Someone could type something and say hello to me. Someone could ask me a question while we wait for her to come back. Just stare here. Come on, this is your one chance to talk to Captain Krieger. Badass, apparently. I'm really not. I just do a lot of cool shit. All right. Well, just really awkward. Ooh, my favorite part of OCS. So, my favorite part of officer candidate school was, I would have to say, like, the physical fitness part. I mean, like, there's no greater challenge than going through officer candidate school and doing it successfully. So like I was saying before, and I'm not going to get into my story right now because I would rather you guys hear candidate trans story first. But I went through officer candidate school for a total of 24 weeks. 24 weeks of OCS when most candidates do 10 weeks. So just stand by for that story. That story's coming. Hardest part of OCS, probably sleep deprivation. That sucks. I remember the first couple of weeks, you're getting like 3 hours, 4 hours of sleep a night because you're so stressed, trying to do everything perfect, trying to study all the knowledge and get all your gear prepped, only for it to be destroyed the next day. So sleep deprivation, but you can't train for that. It's stupid to try and train for sleep deprivation. Please don't do that. Do I regret not going enlisted first? There are days when I look back at it and kind of wish I would have gone enlisted first because they get to do so much hands-on stuff. But ultimately, I know that being an officer is where I was meant to be in the Marine Corps, so I'm very happy that I followed that path, and this was absolutely my dream to be an officer of Marines, and I would never give that up. So going enlisted first, though, there absolutely mad respect to the enlisted Marines and those that transition to being officers. So whichever one you choose, you're still serving your country and you're still a United States Marine. Why did I pick logistics? That's a whole nother episode in and of itself. But I picked logistics because I wanted to be a leader of Marines. When you get to the basic school, you have the opportunity to list out your MOS preferences. And my top 5 was everything that would give me a platoon. I wanted nothing more than to be a platoon commander of Marines. So I had logistics was number 1. I thought it was extremely motivating to be a logistics officer. Then was military police, then was combat engineer, then communications officer, and public affairs because I was a professional wedding photographer before I joined the Marine Corps, so I thought I'd still be good at it. But yeah, my top ones were everything that would give me a solid platoon. And if you go into it with that mentality, you're not going to have any problems. Do people focus too much on wrong worries of OCS, like running? I would say that is absolutely something you should be worried about. OCS is a physical challenge. It's a physical job interview. So you really want to worry about running. Definitely. But if you haven't read the book Run Less, Run Faster by Runner's World, I recommend you reading that because it puts a lot of science and knowledge behind running. So again, that book, I recommend that to all my candidates. It's called Run Less, Run Faster by Runner's World. You can find that on Amazon as well. So I'm going to try and add her back, see if this works. Oh, my bad. I just saw that. Sorry, Patrick. Nope. I can't hear you.
Oh, that stinks. Doesn't look like we'll get Michelle
Yeah.
next time. I just want to talk more about logistics and give it a good plug.
Yeah,
so I
please.
started my career as an aviation contract for two reasons. One, it gave me better odds back in 2008 of getting into OCS. And number two, my OSO was a helicopter pilot and motard. So he really pushed me into flight. I took ASTB, almost aced it. So he said, oh yeah, you better fly, you have to fly. So I thought it was cool. I went through TBS, a complete FIGMAC, which means F it, got my air contract. So I was able to sort of coast because, you know, I didn't have really much of anything on the line. Didn't think it applied me too much. Turned out to be a huge mistake later. But got down to Pensacola and loved Pensacola and absolutely hated the flight community. Hated everything about aviation. I hated flying. I threw up every time I flew. I hated that you got the equivalent of like a PhD's level of education of years and years of stressful training. It was like midterms or finals in college, except for like years and years in a row to become a pilot. And I hated the lack of leadership opportunity. I had a lieutenant colonel at my training squadron who wrote his first fitness report, or basically his first performance review in his career. Almost every captain I knew had zero leadership billets by the time they got to their first unit. So, I mean, the difference between what my peers were doing when I was on the beaches or tarmac in Pensacola or Corpus Christi, Texas at flight school, and the same guys I went through TBS with were already taking platoons through Afghanistan downrange. It just ate me up. So the day after President Obama said we were pulling out of Afghanistan in 2014, I dropped from my aviation contract and was able to make it to Afghanistan, and turns out we're still there. So who knew? Who saw that coming?
Imagine that.
Yeah, but I love logistics. I think that the two big plugs for logistics is amazing leadership opportunities across the board, but also logistics officers often have a leadership ability. Maybe they're an S4, like the logistics officer for a battalion or something like that. But at the same time, they report to someone who's not necessarily a logistics officer. Or do you work with other departments sort of cross-functionally? So I think the leadership challenges are very complex, very nuanced, and prepare you well for the civilian world at large, where you're not exactly just following in your boss's footsteps, and you're not just reporting to one person, you're working with groups and teams across teams. So the second thing I'm sort of alluding to there is logistics and similar MOSs are awesome for civilian experience. I got a 6-figure job in the consulting world as a project manager right out of the military, which is, would be unheard of if you were in many other MOSs. So logistics transfers very well over to business, consulting, project management. I'm an operations manager at a startup right now, and today I was making operations plans just like I did when I ran convoys in Afghanistan. So really transferable skills. And if you're like an OCD organizer person, like logistics and supply are great for you because you're always trying to create order out of chaos. So huge logistics fanboy. Just wanted to put my plug in there.
No, I mean, that's awesome that you also have the same experience that I did. So when I was in my transition period or option to reapply or, accept career designation, I was looking around, making sure I did my due diligence. Hey, let's see what else is out there. Although I had full plans to stay in the Marine Corps, Amazon offered me 6 figures.
Wow.
I turned it down though because I love the Marine Corps and I wanted to stay in, and being an OSO was my #1 goal. Joining the Marine Corps at the time, as I knew I had to at least make it to be an OSO. So yeah, logistics, you definitely have the option to go out there and make some good money if you decide to get out. But that's not just logistics. There are tons of other MOSs or military specialties, occupational
Sure.
specialties that could, result in good civilian transferable skills. So.
Yeah, someone asked how well did I find networking once I got out of the Marine Corps as a logistics officer. First, when I was in the Marine Corps as a logistics officer, I think you have the best networking and you build up the best network because you're always the one coordinating with different units, with the base command, civilian contractors. I remember I was in Afghanistan at a FOB, so at a very small outpost, and I went back to Camp Leatherneck, just, the mothership, huge base, for like a 36, 48-hour period. And I bumped into 23 people I knew. It's like I'm literally in the chow hall sitting there at Leatherneck, and there's people coming one after another that I bumped into. So the logistics officer is really the coordinator in a lot of respects. And so your Marine Corps community and network is huge, which has panned out to help me, particularly afterwards. But once you get out of the military, it's really on you. But I think public affairs officers, logistics officers do have a little bit of a leg up because they have sort of the habits built. I've noticed a lot of former, like captains and majors when they get out are a little more stiff, a little more awkward in the civilian world, and are more of the mindset of following rules or being told what to do, following policies versus, I think, you should be an entrepreneur of your own career. You're your own career monitor.
Yeah,
in the
and
civilian world.
that goes for staying in the Marine Corps too, whether you decide to get in or stay out. I know we're talking to a bunch of,
Yeah.
Applicants that aren't even in the Marine Corps yet, but once you do get into the Marine Corps, it's all on you. It's all initiative based, and that's why it's one of our leadership traits. Initiative is, if you want to do something in the Marine Corps, go out and do it. I just saw a question get asked, I want to be a future OSO, or I want to be an OSO one day. How can I do that? What I did was, on my fitness reports, you're given a block of what you want to do duty-wise. Duty preference is what it's called. OSO duty was on there every single time since the day I was a second lieutenant. And I was like, I'm going to be an OSO. I am going to do this. And it was my number 1 or 2 every single time. So you just take it into your own hands. It goes back to like what you were saying about initiative or about networking. Like, don't ever stop networking, whether you decide to get in or stay out. And also be, a professional. Study the knowledge, make yourself competitive, not just as an officer candidate school, or at officer candidate school, or at the basic school, in the fleet, or in civilian world. And these are all habits that you're starting now as a candidate. You don't even realize it, but taking that initiative and driving yourself towards being competitive, all of that applies to the Marine Corps and being successful. It applies to the civilian world if you get out. So initiative is definitely something that everyone can take away from what he and I were just saying.
100%, 100%. You looking to do 20?
We'll see. I mean, the way I see it is I am going to be in the Marine Corps until I stop making a difference. And once I feel like I'm not making a difference anymore, that's when I know it's time to get out. It doesn't have to be fun. A lot of people use the saying, I'm going to stay in as long as it's fun. That's not how I see it. There are so many things that are not fun about the Marine Corps. There are so many things that are not fun about a regular job. But if you're making a difference, and if you're seeing that difference, even if it's just on a small scale, then it's worth it. It's worth it every single day to make a difference in somebody's life or in the Marine Corps. If you can make a change, even if it's just one small policy change, then, I'm going to stay in. So as long as I can keep making a difference, I'll stay in, because the Marine Corps needs people that are willing to put in the effort and the time and make it a better, more efficient organization. So I'll be the first one to tell you, and I know I'm talking to a bunch of officer candidates that aren't necessarily in the Marine Corps right now, but you have the opportunity ahead of you to make those changes. You will get into the Marine Corps and you will see that the grass is not always greener on the other side. That goes for staying in the Marine Corps or getting out. And you have the option every single day to make a difference. Go ahead and water the grass where you're at and make it greener on your side.
It's awesome, yeah. Leave it better than when you found it.
Yep, exactly.
That's a great attitude. I think the same thing for MOSs goes for career fit just in general about staying in the military or not, which is like know yourself and seek self-improvement. Is know yourself and find where a good fit would be for you. And I ended up where I belong, which is like in the startup world. And I got tired of the bureaucracy in the corporate America and the military. But I felt like this is a good fit for my strength. So the same thing goes for MOS. You know, when you're in the basic school, honestly, right now, like take Strengths Finder, take these tests to understand how you think, how you work, what motivates you, how to find a role where you got more energy at the end of the day than the beginning. And start working on your staff platoon commander, start doing your research into different MOSs early, because I know many situations of new lieutenants who they get to the basic school and just every day drip, drip, drip to their staff platoon commander. They're like, I want artillery, I want artillery, I want artillery. And what do you know? By the time that comes around, the captain is going to be so scared of telling that lieutenant, I didn't get you artillery, that just to make them shut up, they'll go the extra mile to get your artillery. But at the very least, they'll start a conversation with you saying like, I don't think you're an artillery guy and here's why.
Yeah, and then you need to listen to that too, because they know a lot. So
absolutely, yeah. But taking the initiative to sort of develop the situation and find your fit, not just be passive and let the Marine Corps tell you where you're going to go next. So, I mean, I made that mistake, I guess, really. I was very passive about accepting an air contract. They just said, hey, go that way, take an air contract, it'll get you to OCS. Next thing you know, I've flown an airplane 12 times and thrown up 13.
ugh, miserable.
So, we got a couple questions here. Let's see. After becoming an officer, what are the chances of getting stationed in the same place as your spouse if they're already an active duty Marine? I don't have the perspective on that one.
So with this one being dual military, what I mean by that, dual military refers to both of you guys are both in the military. The military is going to do their absolute best to place you guys together. If not, they're required to pay you family separation pay. So, you know, being a part of the government, they have to save money, and that's not efficient for them to split you guys up and not put you together. So they are going to actively try and put you guys together. And so it helps that you guys are already married. So what you need to do for your specific situation, wherever your spouse is located, that needs to be your #1 duty preference on your preference sheet when you get to the basic school. Then they're going to look at that. You're going to talk to your SPC or staff platoon commander and tell him or her, hey, sir, ma'am, my wife or your husband is already stationed here. I'm putting this station coast as my #1 preference as well. And then they're going to do the due diligence, talk to the monitor for you, and figure out, like, when the MOS selection comes out, they're going to look in that base area. Hopefully there's a position at that base or a base very close to it. So if for whatever reason, say your spouse is at Miramar, there are no artillery officers at Miramar, so they're going to put you at Camp Pendleton, and then you guys can find a house in between, and then you guys drive both ways. So that's what they're going to try and do for you guys as dual military. If you're different branches of service, that's going to be a little bit more difficult, but they're still going to at least try and get you in the same state, same coast, and close to the same base as each other. So that they will actively try and put you in there because they don't want to pay that family separation pay.
Nice. Hey, I'm going to sign off. This is Captain, former Captain Patty Weeks, logistics officer. I founded the blog. Listen to this officer. She's got a lot of good advice to share. Thanks for doing the takeover tonight. Anytime you guys want to ask questions, even if it's not in the Instagram Live or something, feel free to message Marine OCS Blog. Feel free to reach out to Captain K on Facebook, Instagram, or anything. You know, people have just had questions and approached the blog. I put them in touch with an OSO, and they've ended up going through to OCS through that relationship. So the networking starts now. But thanks so much, y'all. We're really invested in your success. Let us know how to help you out, and good luck.
All right, thanks for joining us. I'm going to try and get Candidate Tran back on so you guys can hear the pizza story. All right, so give me 1 second. Waiting for her to join. Oh, here we go. Let's see, maybe we'll get her. Nope, still can't hear you. Dang. Think she's working on something. Try it. Nope, got nothing. That's so weird. It was working before. I wish you knew sign language. Type it in the comments. Yeah, maybe turn your phone back on and off. Great, you left. So I'll answer some more questions. Yeah, the hair tutorial, former Captain Patrick Weeks, he's going to download this video. He'll upload it to the blog, and then I can always do another one too. I'll show you. I did the twist method. I can show you guys how to do the sock bun method as well. I prefer the twist method for officer candidate school just because it's a lot more simple and more hygienic than using a sock bun. But again, we can go on to that a little bit later. Your demo will happen. Okay, so this is a really great question. We got a candidate who's about to ship to OCS in 227, which means his ship date is January 6th. And he is going to be going to, and all of those candidates at 227, they're going to be reporting to Quantico, Virginia in the wintertime. So last year, the January class did their induct PFT in 6-degree weather. So just 6, that's it. For a Floridian, that's massive. Like, how terrible. I can't even imagine how your lungs would feel running your heart out for 3 miles in 6 degrees weather. So if you've never ran in 6-degree weather or anywhere close to that temperature, the best advice I can give you is if you have the money or the ability to do it, go train and get yourself used to the cold weather. If you want to be like Rocky and maybe you got a friend who owns a grocery store and has a meat locker, you could go in there. Obviously do it supervised, do it well hydrated, don't do anything outside your physical limits or that a physician would say not to do, but just see how it feels. Do some calisthenics in the cold weather. And then that's the physical preparation. That's something that you could physically feel. But if you don't have any of those options available to you, and it's also pretty short timing because you're shipping on the 6th of January, I highly recommend you read and watch everything you can about the Korean War. The Korean War, what they endured through, and the mental attitude that they had to have in order to succeed is beyond me. And those are the Marines that if I ever see one of them wearing the hat, or whenever I go to the Korean War Memorial in Washington, D.C., those are the guys that, like, I will stop and I will sit. I don't care what I'm doing. I will sit on the bench with them and be like, please tell me your stories, because they went through hell. So if you can watch a movie, listen to some books on tape, read a book. Last Stand of Fox Company is the book that I require all my candidates to read. Give Me Tomorrow, Colder Than Hell. You can just Google USMC Korean War books, and you'll come up with a good list of them. But if you haven't read Last Stand of Fox Company, read it. Give Me Tomorrow, another good one, and Colder Than Hell. Those are also 2 very good books. But if you only have time to read one, I'd read The Last Stand of Fox Company. And you'll see that being cold is just a state of mind. You'll be able to push through anything, especially if your life depends on it. So reading that book will absolutely be important. Advice for young candidates, being a freshman in college. So the biggest thing that I can say to young candidates is get heavily involved in your pool now. Talk to the once trained, fully trained, and PTAD lieutenants and ask them as many questions as you can, and start studying the candidate knowledge. In addition to being heavily involved in your pool, you're going to want to start finding a way to be a leader on campus, whether it be joining the Semper Fi Society, or if it's joining any other organization and putting yourself in leadership billets at a young age will definitely help you out. And then also paying attention to your body and learning how to be a good, efficient runner and building your upper body strength will be important to do as a young candidate. And then just staying involved, because it's very easy to get distracted by all the fun things in college, and it's hard to think about your career for 4 years. But you're doing it anyways in your studies, so you might as well continue to think about your career and making sure that you are a good, solid candidate for 4 years. Like, this is what you want to do. If you're a freshman in college, this is what you're going to do after you graduate. So just continue to add it to your regular studies, and make yourself a professional in that knowledge base. All right. So candidate Tran is back on, and I'm going to add her again. We'll see. Can't hear you. Can anyone else hear candidate Tran, or is it just me? Someone type in the comment box. Anyone? Comment box? Nope, can't hear either. Oh, thanks, guys. All right, give me 1 second. We're gonna try this one more time. I'm going to end the video, and then I'm gonna start it right back up, okay? Hey, everyone. Anything? Yeah, I still got nothing too. Do you recommend CrossFit as OCS training? So in regards to OCS physical fitness training, the one thing that you need to do is be a successful runner. Candidates that graduate officer candidate school can run anywhere from 3 to 6 miles easily. You need to be able to run 15 miles on average per week in order to be successful at officer candidate school. Whatever mileage breakup you want to do. On average, though, if you can maintain 15 miles per week, you're setting yourself up for success. The problem with CrossFit is that when you join a box or a CrossFit gym or you do those kind of workouts, they rarely include a lot of running. So you're doing all of these heavy lifts, leg lifts, you're getting very, very sore and taxing your muscles. So you're not going to want to run after you do those workouts. So if you can find a way, and maybe you are physically fit enough to do it, do CrossFit and run, cool, awesome, do it. It will definitely help. But if you are not at the level of running 15 miles per week, and then I would not recommend doing CrossFit right away. Maybe do it every once in a while, maybe once on the weekend, and then stick to regular upper body strength training. You got to find a way to do both. You absolutely need to be a runner at officer candidate school. So running should be your number one priority, and CrossFit should be a second, supplementary way to work out. But definitely focus on running. Some tips for losing weight in order to qualify. You got to do it smartly. You got to be smart about it. I'd say hire a nutritionist and work on your cardio. And then, but I mean, it's all about nutrition to lose weight safely and smartly. And you definitely don't need to drop weight and do like a cut diet or some crazy detox in order to make weight to go to MEPS. Just do what you need to do it smartly, talk to your OSO. And again, you know, most colleges have a nutrition specialist at their gym. So reach out to them, try and get yourself on a plan. Usually they're pretty cheap or free for students. So that's something to look into too. All right, so I'm adding candidate Tran again. Candidate Tran, can you say something? Are you up?
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh my goodness, it's a miracle. It's a Christmas miracle, everyone.
We did it.
All right.
Okay,
all right,
finally.
All right, so I'm going to answer this one last question, and then we're going to get into the pizza story that I know you guys have been waiting all night to hear. This candidate got selected for the NRTC scholarship, and Ole Miss is their choice. Any advice for you? The biggest thing is, just like I was telling all the other candidates, the young candidates, you know, start working on your physical fitness now, and also make sure that you regularly study military knowledge and learn the lessons from those who went before you. So everything that, you know, I just said about officer candidate school absolutely applies to you as a ROTC member too. And don't be afraid to reach out to different sources in your area. You're going to have an OSO. Feel free to reach out to them too and talk to them. Maybe ROTC doesn't work out for you, but you still want to join the military. You still want to be an officer. Talk to your OSO in the local area. All right, Candidate Tran, are you ready to tell everyone about the pizza scandal?
I am ready to dive into the pizza scandal of this summer. So a little bit of context. I finished my first year of college, and I was going to the first increment of PLC juniors at OCS this summer, which began on May 27th. And throughout OCS, I prepared for OCS. I had never done ROTC before, and I got selected. And then at my time at OCS, I was also a pretty good candidate. I was a knowledge candidate for my entire company. I had really good leadership grades, and the staff was really trusting of me. So I was voluntold to do a lot of things as well. And by the time I reached the last Liberty weekend, I had gotten my graduation papers that day. And I was ranked 8 in my platoon, and I improved a lot significantly within my PFT time. So I was really excited to get home. I was really amped up, and I was really overwhelmed with the fact that I finished OCS and I was pretty much done with OCS. So I got caught up in the moment, and my Liberty buddy and I went to the PX on base to get pizza. And when we got to the base and actually got our pizza, we realized that we were running late for our fire watch shift. So we decided to save our food and then come back to the squad base. And when we were coming back to the squad base, it was pouring, it was raining. So we didn't have time to eat it, and we couldn't like eat it outside or leave our chow outside because it was raining, it would get soaked up. So immediately, without really thinking, I brought my chow into the head, as well as my gear, because I was going to begin my fire watch shift. And I was changing in the head and changing on my fire watch shift, and there were other candidates in the head who also saw that I had chow, and my Liberty buddy had chow as well. And we were just being really negligent and just knowingly like breaking the rules and regulations simply because we're changing over. So this is where I made my first mistake. And the second mistake that I made was while I was on my fire watch shift, I was instructed to put up some posters in between the stalls for each of the toilet seats, and by my sergeant instructor who was on duty that day. And when I was in the head, I was done putting up the posters and everything, and I decided, okay, I have my stuff here. And it wasn't just chow, it was like gear, it was clothes, it was everything. It was a mess, and I was just going over, squaring away my gear, and then my sergeant instructor actually walked in the head saw me with my chow and my stuff while I was on my fire watch duty. And I immediately, this is my second mistake, I immediately tried to like defend myself, or try to like not necessarily lie, but sort of rationalize what I was doing instead of owning up to it in the very beginning. And then from that point on, we were just told to write down everything of that incident. I was told to report every single candidate that had chow in the head, that owned chow and brought it into the squad base without any kind of permission or whatever. And not getting too deep into the boarding process, I was boarded that following weekend after it was done. And that following Tuesday, July 4th, before my Friday, right before I had to graduate, I flew home to San Diego and I got dropped officially from OCS without recommendation to come back due to an integrity violation. And that was a really, really hard blow to experience at OCS. It's still a very difficult situation to talk about, although I'm more open with it now. And while I'm saying this, I don't want to give off the impression that this is like an inspiring story, whatever the case is. It's definitely not. It's a professional and personal embarrassment. It's something that I have to face because it has permanent consequences that are still applicable to my life as of right now. And I have to make even more changes to try to recover from this situation, even though I'm more mentally, academically, and physically qualified than before. And it's a very difficult transition to try to get selected back to OCS. My Liberty buddy also got dropped from OCS without recommendation, and she's trying to get selected again this year, although I'm not a candidate any longer. I mean, I'm addressing Captain K here with a candidate Tran, but technically speaking, I am not a candidate at my OSO as of right now. So it's a very difficult story to kind of relive, but it just goes to show how you need to hold yourself to a high standard. You need to always hold yourself accountable, always making sure that you're holding other candidates accountable as well. And while you are on liberty, or while you have a little bit of freedom, making sure that you're not abusing that privilege that is being given to you. You need to make sure that when you are on your liberty, you're holding yourself, your liberty buddy, and other people in your platoon and your company accountable. And this goes into the depths of OCS. Well, I know that there's some candidates who got away with stealing other people's gear, who got away with sleeping in the laundry room, who got away with doing a lot of stuff. And, you know, I can always compare my situation with them, but I'm not going to do that. Rather, I have to understand that the staff was just following protocol, and by following through with the protocol, I rightfully got sent home from OCS this summer, as well as 4 other candidates, so 5 of us got sent home.
Yep. So training attrition is definitely something that's very, very significant at officer candidate school. And everyone always says, that's so stupid, that's never going to happen to me, I'm never going to make that decision. Tell them a little bit about, I know you mentioned it a little bit, but what was going through your head when you made the decision to bring the pizza in? Like, you knew it wasn't allowed.
I knew it wasn't allowed. I was really on top of it when I knew the regs. But also, there's a lot of looseness that happens on Liberty as well. People think that they can get away with a lot of things, and I'm definitely not the only candidate that brought chow into the head. And the other 4 candidates who got sent home definitely weren't the only candidates who broke some form of rules or regulations as well. The thought process was just solely focused on the fact that I was really excited to graduate, that I was just trying to enjoy my liberty as fast as possible. And I just lost care for a little bit. I've lost sight of what my true reason for being here is. And that's something that's extremely important when you're at OCS, even during the most enjoyable times, is making sure that you know exactly why you're there, and making sure why the rules and regulations still take place. I definitely wasn't a bad candidate. I don't want to hype myself up or any way of the matter, but I usually did follow all the rules, and I never had an attitude problem. I never had a problem with my leadership score. I never had a problem with other people in my platoon. So this was I had to question my morals, like, and I had to question my ethics, even subsequently after this incident had happened. And it's something so small, just as bringing chow into the head, but it's more so about owning up to something when you failed your staff, when you failed your platoon, when you failed your company, when you failed at OCS. And it's all about how you can recover from failure. And from that failure, I wasn't able to recover the way that the Marine Corps expects me to.
Now, this is going to sound really harsh, and to all the candidates that are listening,
Mm-hmm.
this is going to sound extremely harsh because none of you guys have been in the Marine Corps yet. And I know there's a few Marines that are on right now, and they're all probably going to agree with me on this one. The reason why you got dropped is absolutely, like you said, it was a clear violation of the orders. There's rules in place, and that's one of the reasons why you're given liberty, is to test you and see what you're going to do when you're alone, and you have your own free will, your own freedoms. How are you going to handle those freedoms? What are you going to do with it? Because as an officer of Marines, you are expected to uphold those standards, and you are the only one that is going to hold everyone else to those standards too. So if you can't do it right in the squad bay, then you're sure as hell not going to be able to do it when you get to the fleet.
Absolutely.
And what we call in the fleet, what you did, we called it smelling the barn. Means that, and it's a very common term too, so a lot of people know it, but smelling the barn, if you don't know what it means, it just means like you're on the way home, and you essentially drop your pack, you stop caring about things, you disregard whatever orders are in place, and you just want to rush home, get to the barn, get to your feed, drop your pack, rest and relax. And as a leader, this is something that you have to deal with every day when you're deployed, whether it be to Afghanistan, to Australia, or if you're just doing a field exercise aboard whatever base installation that you're a part of. Your Marines are going to smell the barn, and you as a leader have to keep them on the right track. You have to keep their head on a swivel. You have to be able to inspire them and make sure that they're doing the right things at all times. So officers were not given that ability. Like, your Marines aren't supposed to be doing it, so you sure as hell are not going to be the one smelling the barn. You have to be able to follow the rules and regulations at all times, 24/7, because as an officer of Marines and as a Marine in general, you're on 24/7. The uniform might come off, but you are still a United States Marine. In Afghanistan, when we were doing convoys, there were many times IEDs right outside the gate. So, I mean, of course, we were all, on top of it looking for the IEDs as we were exiting the gate.
Right.
But after we did our convoy and after we came back, it's a very low, slow convoy. You're rolling at very, very slow pace, miles per hour. It's hot. You have all your gear on. You haven't slept in a very long time, so you're tired. And you're coming up, you can see the base, you can see the wire, you can see, the Marines in the guard shacks. That's when, it's very dangerous. That's when the IED placement really matters, because not only could the IEDs get you and your convoy, but they could also possibly damage the base. So how are you going to train your Marines? How are you going to be the one to make sure that they are paying attention at all times and looking for those situations? And I'm talking about combat. So, I mean, obviously that's high and to the right from a pizza incident, but that's very, very similar to, hey, we're about to finish this mission. It was successful. We didn't lose anybody. We accomplished the mission. Everything's going great. And there's base. There's chow. That's where we get to sleep. We're finally going to get to lay our heads down. And if you're not looking for those IEDs, or if you're not looking for the enemy, if you're not even just doing your simple basic mechanic checks, your vehicle could break down right outside the gate, and the next thing you know, you've just delayed your entire convoy about 5 hours because you failed to check something.
Right.
So I mean, that's everyone who's listening right now and heard your story, they're like, dear God, she got dropped for bringing pizza into the head. Like, that sergeant instructor should have just turned their head the other way. I mean, she was number 8 in her platoon. All of her platoon mates clearly loved her. I mean, I'm seeing people, say they love you and you were a great candidate. I mean, like, I'm sure you absolutely were, but you made
I
the wrong mistake
Yep,
at the wrong time, and now here you are trying to recover from it.
right. Yeah, and it's
It
something
is,
that I think about every single day. It's not something that gets brushed off. People think that it's something that's really small and something silly. A lot of people laugh about it now, but at the end of the day, it made a very permanent effect and made a permanent change to my plans and how I wanted to approach my future becoming a Marine Corps officer. And before I was on top of it, I mean, I finished my first year of college, but I'm trying to graduate in 2.5 years, and I had already gone to PLC juniors. I'm trying to commission as soon as possible, going to law school, all these things, but now everything just, it made me question everything. And now that I'm no longer a candidate, I had to start from square one right back again, and consider all of my options, think about enlisting first or going OCS or going the OCS route, trying to get selected again, but I only have one more shot. And it's really sad because despite this being a very small incident that happened, I have to face the very real possibility that I might not become a Marine Corps officer because of something that I lacked within that Liberty weekend. The opportunity is still there, and I'm still going to strive for it. But ultimately, the hands is at the CO, is at the staff, is out of my hands, and it all plays into these external factors that ultimately make that decision of whether they want me back into this amazing organization or not. So I highly recommend, if you are thinking about going to OCS, if you're worried about all these things that seem relatively difficult, which are academics, which are your physical standards, which are your health, all of these things that are really important, make sure you don't lose sight of why you're really there. Make sure you don't lose sight of the thing that sets the Marine Corps at a very strong foundation, which is honor, courage, and commitment. And in that situation, I lacked all three of those aspects that were integral in my success at OCS.
yep. Now, I keep referring to you as a candidate, and that's because even as an OSO, and I'm not your OSO, but I think that you have the option to reapply, although you do have the recommendation of not, they don't want you back.
Yeah.
You can still reapply for the program, but you just have to make yourself an exceptional candidate. And so what that means is, improving your physical fitness score, staying committed to the program, even though technically you're not a candidate, you're not in the pool, still following up regularly with your OSO, and making sure that they know that you still want to be involved and that this is still your goal. Again, making yourself a leader in the community and at your college is extremely important. If you can do that, and hold multiple leadership billets, that's going to give that OSO and the selection board, the waiver board, everyone that has to look at your package in order for you to go back, confidence that, hey, she's a leader in her community and she's really, really striving to make herself successful. She's putting herself out there in a lot of different situations. And she's doing everything she can to make herself a leader. And that's somebody that we might want to consider having back into the officer candidate school program to see if they're eligible to be a Marine, if they have what it takes. And like you said before, just keeping your academics up, making sure that you have the stellar GPA, and also doing knowledge related events within your pool will also provide that second option for the OSO to evaluate you and say, okay, this candidate, clearly made a very stupid mistake, but she's doing X, Y, and Z to make herself better. So, well, it might seem like all hope is lost for you, especially getting that blow of not recommended to reapply. You have to take the situation into your own hands and continue to try. And if you do all of those things that I listed, you gave it 100% effort. If you if you go to sleep every day and you can't think of a single thing differently or that you could have done differently, then you know that you were successful in at least trying. And that's all that you can do at this point. I know what it feels like to get dropped from officer candidate school and think about it every single day. And just knowing that you want to be a Marine Corps officer more than anything, you just can't give up. And if you do everything and you keep trying, and you submit that package knowing that that's the most competitive package you could have ever done, and they still come back and say that you're not selected, that's when you're going to be able to rest easy. But you
Right.
you have to give everything and leave nothing back. If you can give everything, then at least you can go to sleep at the end of the selection board knowing that you tried. So
Thank you. It's
that's what I
great.
would say to that. Someone just said, "Tell us your story, Captain." I will, eventually. So my candidate story is very, very long, and it's a lot of heartbreak and a lot of tears, a lot of literally broken bones. So one day I will tell you guys my story. I think that plan is in the works, but for now, I will hold off on telling you my story. I think candidate Tran had a very, very good story to tell you guys. She was a phenomenal candidate, ranked number 8. Everything seemed to be going exceptionally well for her. And then next thing you know, she's getting dropped for integrity, something that you never thought would have been a question for you. It can happen. Good candidates make stupid mistakes. So I applaud you for telling your story. I think that it is very, very hard to say something like that, especially knowing that you were not recommended to reapply.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for telling all the candidates your story. I think they have a lot of things that they can learn from you and from your story. It's very unfortunate, but I know that you're working towards something a lot more important now. And I hope that everyone sees where you're going with this message, and doesn't just take it for, the superficial value of, pizza in the head getting you dropped.
Right.
So that's awesome. And I know that today you're going to be getting, well, maybe not today, but eventually you're going to be getting a really sweet gift from Bulldog Products, and they're going to send you something. So if anybody hasn't checked out Bulldog before, their website is bulldogsd.com, and you can search Bulldog on the OCS blog Instagram account and check them out. Make sure you guys like them. They've been a huge sponsor and supporter of the OCS blog, and really, really doing wonders. Without them, I know that we wouldn't be able to provide a lot of this information and questions for you guys. So check them out, and that's just our way of saying thank you to candidate Tran for sharing your story. I know that was pretty painful for you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for giving me the platform to share it. If there's anybody who has any questions pertaining to the incident or my experience at OCS, I'm sure I'm more than willing to answer them. And if I can't get to answering your questions now, you can always email me as well. It's michelletransd@gmail.com.
Awesome. Do you have any last minute words of advice or anything that you'd like to share before we sign off?
There was a question earlier that asked, it was like, where is it? It asked about how you can hold other candidates accountable basically without being perceived as like that person. And the reality is, it doesn't matter how other people perceive you if you are giving them the right message to follow, and if you are telling them to hold themselves to a higher standard. There was one candidate, and if she's watching this, I'm excited to see her reaction, but there was one candidate who always got on my nerves, and I was like, oh, she's so like annoying, and it's so frustrating to hear her say the same thing over and over and over again. And at the end of the time that I was there at PLC Juniors, she was a candidate that I had a lot of respect for, because she didn't care how other people perceived her. She didn't care that she was annoying or pushy. She just kept saying the right message and making sure that other candidates were holding themselves to a high standard, and holding herself to a high standard as well. And now she's someone that I really admire, really respect. And our platoon had gotten really close ever since our incident, but also ever since our experience at OCS. So I make sure to keep in touch with them as well, even though they're from different states and everything. And I try to do my best to share my story with people who are considering joining the Marine Corps, whether it's enlisted, whether it's officer, because it's going to happen to anybody. You are going to have times where you're going to question your motives, or you're going to doubt yourself. And even in that incident, after that happened, I had to sincerely ask other candidates, like, am I still a good person? Am I a good person? And I questioned my like morals because of the consequences that I faced at OCS. It was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to face. And it still is, and it still hurts. So just making sure that you're keeping this in mind before you decide to get selected, before you ship off to OCS. If this is a career that you think that you want to pursue. I obviously have never been in it, but I know that it's something that I still desire, and desire even more now that I failed from my experience at OCS.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for sharing your story. If you want to reach out to me, my social media platform is always available to you as well. That goes to any of the candidates. It's SFL_Marine Officer, and then I'm tagged everywhere on the OCS blog. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. If it's a female question that you were too embarrassed to ask on social media, feel free to email me, and I'll definitely take a look and answer any questions. And candidate Tran, again, thank you very much. And to all the candidates out there, I wish you the best of luck. Remember to always communicate to your OST, to your OSO, and then never give up. Always keep trying, always do your best, and you'll be successful. So, and thank you, OCS Blog, for letting me take over. Thank you, Bulldog Products, for sponsoring this live video. Really, really appreciate everything that you guys are doing for the candidates. And I know that back in the day when I was a candidate, I read the blog every single week. So, all right, well, I will sign off now. Candidate Tran, I will talk to you later. And everyone else, make sure you guys follow the blog, follow Bulldog Products, and check me out, SFL_Marine Officer, and we'll be around. All right. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.
Bye.